video, I'm going to talk about simplifying expressions, but before I do that, I want to go over these definitions with you because these are words that I will be using quite often. Hopefully you've read this, and so I will go through them quickly. But the first definition here is the word variable, and this is what makes algebra algebra. A variable is the letter. It's a placeholder in an algebraic expression. So it's your x's, your y's, your z's. So anytime I say variable, I'm talking about the letter part of the expression. An algebraic expression then consists of variables, constants, which are your numbers, and operational signs like add, subtract, multiply, and divide. So our first example here is an algebraic expression, 3x squared minus 5xy minus x plus 7. It has the variables x and y. It has your numbers 3, 5, and 7, and more numbers than that. And then it's got add, subtract, and multiply, and also exponents in this expression. A term is a signed number or product of numbers. The easiest way to determine a term is to count the signs in your expression. So if we look at this expression, first of all, there's an understood plus in front of this first term. Anytime your first term is positive, you won't see the sign, but it's understood. There's a plus there. So if we're looking at this expression, we have a plus, a minus, and a plus. That's 4 signs. That means this expression has 4 terms, and everything behind the sign is the part of the term. So our first term then is positive 3x squared. And then we begin our next term. The negative 5xy is our second term, negative x is our third term, and positive 7 is our last term. A variable term is a term that has variables in it. So in this case, we have 3 variable terms. We have the positive 3x squared, the negative 5x, and the negative x. And then a constant term is a term that does not have a variable. So our 7, positive 7, is our constant term. Every term has a sign, therefore every term has a number connected to it, and that number connected to the term is called the coefficient. So the coefficient of our first term is positive 3. The coefficient of our second term is negative 5. And then if you look at this third term, there is no sign in front of our number in front of this term. But there is a sign. And remember, anytime there's a sign, there's a number connected to that sign. And the number that's there, if you don't see it, is a 1. So this is a negative 1. That makes the coefficient of our third term negative 1. Our third term is negative 1x. Our coefficient of that term is negative 1. And then last we have the positive 7, which we would call our constant term. Like terms are terms with exactly the same variables and exactly the same exponents. In our example, there are no like terms, but if there were like terms can be combined into one term by combining or adding and subtracting their coefficient. And that brings us to simplifying expressions. Your goal when you're working with expressions is to simplify the expression down to 2 terms or less, usually a variable term and a constant term. And there are 2 steps that will simplify your expressions. The first step is to clear parentheses. Clearing parentheses is your multiplying rules. And then your second step is to combine or like terms after you've cleared parentheses. If you have like terms, you can add or subtract the coefficients of those like terms. Now, what we're going to look at here is simplifying example 1, this expression here. In this expression, you have a positive 3 outside the parentheses, and then you have a 2x minus 11, that's 2 terms inside the parentheses. Our first step to simplify is to clear the parentheses. To clear parentheses, you multiply by the number and the sign connected to the parentheses. So I'm going to multiply my first term, positive 3, times 2x. 3 times 2 is 6. Positive times a positive is a positive. So I get positive 6 times x. And then positive 3 times negative 11. Positive times a negative is a negative. 3 times 11 is 33. So I've got rid of the parentheses. Now I have a two-term expression with no parentheses, and these are not like terms because I have a variable term and a constant term. So this is as simple as I can get this expression. And usually that's what you're trying to do, get it down to a variable term and a constant term. Now look at example 2. In example 2, I actually have two terms outside of the parentheses. I have a positive 1x and a positive 2, and I have two terms inside the parentheses, and I want to simplify this expression down to two terms, a variable term and a constant term. The first thing I have to do is get rid of this parentheses, and notice that I multiply by the number connected to the parentheses, which is not this x, it's the plus 2. So what I want to do then is just bring down this x because he is not connected to my parentheses. He's just hanging around waiting for everybody to get out of parentheses, and I'm going to use my 2 to get the terms out of parentheses. It's a plus 2, so positive 2 times positive 6 is positive 12 times x, and then positive 2 times negative 18 is negative 36. So this time when I get these guys out of parentheses, I now have three terms, and your expression is never simplified until you've got it down to two terms or less. So in this case, I should be able to combine two of these terms, and if you'll notice, I have here a positive 1x and a positive 12x. Those are like terms. I can put them together by adding their coefficients. 1 plus 12 is 13, and keeping their variable. You're not changing the variable when you're combining like terms. It's like combining 1 apple plus 12 apples, you get 13 apples. And then you've got this minus 36. Now this expression is two terms, a variable term and a constant term. It's as simple as it gets. Okay, let's look at example 3. Example 3 has two parentheses, so before I do anything, I have to simplify both of these parentheses. To do that, I'm going to have to distribute the positive 3 to the first parentheses because that's the number outside that parentheses. That will give me positive 3x and positive 15. And then be very careful with the second parentheses. Anytime there is a sign with no number after it, it's an understood negative 1. So there is a negative 1 connected to this parentheses. I must multiply both terms inside the parentheses by negative 1. Negative 1 times positive 4 is negative 4x. And then be careful here, negative 1 times negative 6, and negative times a negative is a positive. 1 times 6 is 6. And now what you'll see is I have four terms. I have a 3x, a positive 15, a negative 4x, and a positive 6. I should be able to combine some of those terms to get this down to two terms, and I can. I can combine my 3x with my negative 4x. 3 minus 4 would give me negative 1, so I would have a negative 1x. And then I can combine my positive 15 with my positive 6. That would give me positive 21. And this answer is correct. You could write it like this, or remember anytime there is a sign and 1 in your expression, you can leave off the 1 and write this example like this. Both of these mean I have a negative 1x and a positive 21. So both of those are correct. The computer would accept it either way. All right, look at number 4. Number 4, I've got lots of terms outside of parentheses, so let's see what we've got. I've got a 7x, a negative 5, and a negative 4 outside of the parentheses. Inside parentheses, I have a 2x and a negative 10 here, and an x and a 7 here. My first goal is to clear the parentheses by multiplying by the number connected to that parentheses. So notice here this 7x is separated away from the parentheses. He just comes down as part of the answer. The negative 5, though, is what will get these two guys out of parentheses. Negative 5 times positive 2 would be negative 10 times x. Negative times a negative would be a positive. 5 times 10 would be 50. That gets rid of that parentheses. Be careful with this parentheses. This is a negative 4. Negative 4 times x is negative 4x. And negative 4 times positive 7 is negative 28. Now I have 5 terms outside of the parentheses. I should be able to combine variable terms with variable terms, constants with constants. So let's do that. We're going to combine 7x with negative 10x with negative 4. So you can put that in your calculator, 7 minus 10 minus 4, or you can do it in your head. That would give you negative 7x. So 7 minus 10 would be negative 3, minus 4 would be negative 7x. And then we're going to combine positive 50 with negative 28. Positive is bigger, so positive 50, and that would be a positive 22. Now we've got 2 terms, a variable term and a constant term. That's as simple as we can get it. That is our answer.